Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining on time and your interest to our webinars. So now we're going to start our webinar with general topic on the doing business in Mongolia, and it will be providing information about like how to start your business in Mongolia. So today we're going to have 3 presentations. Like I will be presenting general investment environment and legal forms of starting business in Mongolia in terms of the legal perspective, and then it will be followed by Namu. She will be presenting on the obligations of the taxpayers, especially on the non-resident taxpayers. And the last presentation will be presented by Buyanjaral. She will be presenting about the enforcement proceedings of the foreign court decision and arbitration awards in Mongolia. So I would like to start my presentation with general introduction about GRATA International. So our law firm is a part of the GRATA International, which is the international law firm, which has over 30 years experience, and GRATA International has offices in 20 countries and around 250 legal and non-legal professionals providing full legal services to our clients in different countries. So GRATA International is the association of the law firm, which has the strongest presence in the Central Asian countries and other countries, including Turkey, Cyprus, and some other European countries. So as an advantage of approaching office of the GRATA International, if you're planning to expand your business in different countries, different jurisdictions, you will have a legal service in several countries. So it's one of our advantages, and you will have a qualitative legal services from the experienced local legal team. On the map, we are showing that the presence of the GRATA International. So as mentioned before, our offices is located in Central Asia, and also we do have offices in Turkey, Armenia, Cyprus, and representatives in Malaysia, Germany, China, UK, US, and Switzerland. So if you are intending to have a business in any of these countries, you can approach to our office, so we can assist you, legal services to start your business in these countries. And as mentioned before, we're providing full legal services. So in terms of the practice areas, we provide legal services to competition, corporate laws, and employment, taxation, intellectual property. And we also assist and advise on licensing, permitting to our customers. And we also represent, dispute resolution in the courts and arbitrations. Here is shown the industrial sectors, like we're providing services to the clients in oil and gas, the mining, IT sectors, banking and finance, and pharmaceuticals, industry and trade. So if you're doing like in any other sectors, we also can provide you full legal services in different countries and jurisdictions. So now I'm coming to the content of my presentations. So I will briefly introduce about the Mongolian economic indicators, how Mongolia is doing during the last 3 years, and then briefly investment environment. In terms of what's the advantage Mongolia has, what are the attractive sectors for the foreign investors to start business in Mongolia. And then I will be presenting about the forms of the investments, which is regulated under investment law. And then coming to the entity forms, like what kind of legal entity forms are offered to the foreign investors to start the business in Mongolia. And at the last, I will be presenting about what international investment frameworks the Mongolia has, like party of which conventions and bilateral treaties, which is kind of beneficial to the foreign investors to know about. So Mongolia is located in Central Asia, and it has a population of 3.4 million people, and GDP in last year was 15.1 billion USD. And international credit ratings by the international rating agencies, it's a B, and the inflation rate by September of 2022, it's 14%. So comparing to the other countries in Central Asia, our inflation is comparatively high, but I think globally it's same kind of scenario because of the COVID pandemic and because of the Russian-Ukrainian war. So I think you will see similar kind of pictures to all the countries in Central Asia. And also our unemployment rate is 10%, and our total trade turnovers is 13.2 billion USD by August of this year. And in terms of the GDP, last year it was 1.4, and this year it's going to be like 1.7. So it's again another same reason of the COVID pandemic and restriction of the borders with the main trading country of China, and also the war of our neighbors, Russia with Ukraine. I would like to present like main interesting sectors, like attractive sectors to the foreign investors in Mongolia. So the first sector is the mining sector. It is actually the key sector for the economy of the Mongolia. We are quite depending on the mining sectors and imports of the mineral products to the other countries. So Mongolia is ranked 7th in the global resources, with around known that over 1,000 deposits and of the 80 different mineral resources. So in order to invest in the mining sectors, you can participate to the bidding in order to get a new exploration license. And also you can invest into the certain the factories, plants in the mining sectors, which is going to produce value-added products. And also you can invest into exploration, the projects of the existing licenses, and you can cooperate with the local companies which are already holding the exploration license. So this is the way of how you can do investment in the mining sectors. And also, as mentioned before, the Mongolia is, some of its minerals is ranked, in terms of the reserve, ranked in the gold. So for example, for the copper, the Mongolia's reserve is ranked as on a 12th position. And for phosphor, we have quite good proven reserves as ranked on the 4th in the world. And also iron ore and 19th. So etc. So if you're interested, have more kind of information about the mining sectors, we can assist you like. The next sector is agriculture sectors. So the Mongolia is like, I would say maybe 1/3 of the population is still nomads, and it has 67 million livestock, and we are good producer of the raw materials of the cashmere and wool. And also for the running some arable businesses, we have 1.3 billion hectares of the land for arable businesses. And the agriculture sector is contributing over 30% of the GDPs of the Mongolia. And if you're interested to business in Mongolia, we have quite good kind of source of raw materials for starting intensive farming meat and dairy products. And also, vegetable plantations, we have a good potential, to start business. The next two sectors, which is interested or might be interested by the foreign investors to the businesses, IT and renewable energy sectors. So comparing to the total population of the Mongolia, over 2 million internet users, and most of our population is already mobile users. So also, you know, as the population is young and very kind of keen to the new technology, it will be kind of good potential to the Mongolian market to introduce and start new high-tech businesses. And also in terms of the manpowers, the literacy level of Mongolia is quite high. It's 98%. So if you're already doing some business in IT sectors and you need, you know, manpower from Mongolia, the Mongolia will be also, you know, good potential with talented IT workers. And the next sector is renewable energy sectors. Mongolia has over 300 sunny days in year, and it also has good potential of the running of the wind power stations. And as explained you, that comparing to the other countries, we are quite good on, you know, to providing some businesses related to the wind and solar power stations in Mongolia. So coming to the investment forms, so you can start your business like as 100% foreign-owned companies, and also joint ventures will be like with local partner, and consortium also will be kind of start with the local partners. And you also can invest through merger and acquisition, through buying and transferring existing company shares. And also under the law, concession, protect sharing management agreement, especially for all sectors, are offered kind of the forms for the investors. And you also invest in the bonds, securities, and other sets in the financial and banking sectors. And one of the kind of trending investment forms these days is franchising. So franchising also available to the foreign investors to start business in Mongolia. So coming to the options of what kind of legal entity you can establish in order to start your business. So the first one is limited liability company with the foreign investment, and then representative office of the foreign entity. The third is permanent establishment. So all these three forms of the investments is regulated under legislations and procedures of the Mongolia. So if your business is requiring certain permit and license from the government authorities, it's preferred to set up the foreign invested company. Otherwise, you know, for the rep offices and permanent establishment, there is a certain limitations to opt-in and apply for the license and permits. So in order to make a decision like which kind of forms is more suitable for my business, you need to have proper kind of legal advice in order to know about what's the advantage and disadvantage of the each forms of the entities. And for the legal entity, the law requires that each investor, like each foreign investor, requires to invest 100,000 USD and or maybe same valued equipment, machineries, and all the other kind of the capitals can be invested as a registered capital of the company. So this is the one of the kind of disadvantage for the company. But if you think that in the long run you want to do business in a regulated sectors which require permit and license from the government authority, we strongly recommend that the company will be good option. For the rep offices, if the rep office is maybe choice of starting your business in Mongolia, the main kind of operation of the rep offices will be supporting its head office. So the main restriction for the rep offices, it cannot run any commercial activity for earning the profits. It means that they cannot execute kind of sales or other kind of contracts, which is selling actually the product and services to the clients. So the head office will be like part of all the contracts for the commercial purposes, and rep office only can execute the operational related contracts. And, you know, in terms of the the benefits of the rep offices is it doesn't require any registered capital amount. So considering the advantage and disadvantage, rep office also can be your choice. And the permanent establishment is only for the purpose of the taxpayers. But, you know, if your company got some contract in Mongolia in order to implement certain projects, maybe for 2 years, 3 years, then permanent establishment can be the option. But permanent establishment will not be registered to the registration authority. It will be only registered to the respective tax offices, and it will become the residence taxpayers. And then it will getting benefit of the resident taxpayers, and will pay like local companies. So this is the main advantage. And we have certain regulations in the taxation law, corporate income law, and there is a certain specific procedures on the registration of the permanent establishment and the register it. And also the Mongolia has double taxation avoidance treaties with 26 countries. So each treaty has certain kind of, I would say, the same kind of definitions of the permanent establishment. So also the double taxation avoidance agreement will be like key regulations for the permanent establishment. You can check, you know, in order to decide whether the permanent establishment will be kind of suitable form of doing business in Mongolia. And in terms of the tax duties, all three forms will be same, but the main thing is for the rep offices, it's not earning any profits. So it's just need to report its expenses and the funding from head offices, how actually they spend the amount on the tax reports. And as mentioned before, you know, the main advantage of setting up the LLC, the company, is you can get the license without any limitations. Rep office, there is a certain limitations, you know, the mostly permit and license will be given to the company legal entity with a state registration certificate. So in very few cases, rep office can apply for the permits. And there is a number of the regulated sectors in Mongolia. So regulated sectors means that if you're planning to do business in these sectors, you have to get the permit from the state administrative organizations. And, you know, if your organization is owned by the state and you're planning to own a certain percentage of the shares of the local company through the merger and acquisitions, you need to get the permit from the government. And there is 4 sectors: mining, banking, IT, and media sectors requires such additional permits from the government. And Mongolia is quite proactive player in international relations with its neighbor countries and third countries. So the government of Mongolia has executed double taxation avoidance agreements with 26 countries. And of course, this agreement is a key kind of the document for the foreign investors to make a decision from which country the head company will be located and from which country they will do investment to Mongolia. So it gives certain benefits, you know, to exempted standard tax rates and certain taxes. So if you have any questions like regarding the double taxation avoidance agreement of the Mongolia with other countries, we can assist on that. And secondly, Mongolia has executed investment promotion and protection agreement with 45 countries, and it gives certain rights to foreign investors to protect its rights. So coming to the access to the international markets, the Mongolia is the party of the Japanese-Mongolian Economic Partnership Agreement, which gives 2 countries to exempted for Mongolia over 5,000, for Japan over 9,000 products will be exempted from customs duties. And also the Mongolia has accepted European Union GSP and the US GSP, which gives, the notable amount of products to the European Union countries and USA market will be exempted from the customs tariff. And also the Mongolia is a party of the Asia Pacific Trade Union agreements, which is given tariff discount over 10,000 types of the products in trading with these 6 countries. So this is the end of my presentation. I would like to thank for your attention and time. Now I would like to invite Namo to present her presentation regarding the tax legislation of Mongolia, especially on the non-tax residents taxpayers' obligations. And I would like to inform you that if you have any questions, you can send your questions through the chat box, or you can also ask after all 3 presentations, and we will provide our contact details and presentations after the webinars, and you can also send your questions by email also.
Okay, hello everyone. And this is Namon. Okay, hello. My name is Namon, and I'm Junior Associate of GRATA International Mongolia. Today, I will be talking about obligations of non-resident taxpayers of Mongolia. Okay. At first, I want to talk about tax system of Mongolia, which is, I will talk about our tax legislation and the authorities of taxation. Reform of the key tax laws was taken place in Mongolia, including revisions to the general tax law, the corporate income tax law, and value-added tax law and personal income tax law in 2018, which have been passed later in the 2019 by the parliament. And the highest tax authority of Mongolia is the National Tax Administration. As you can see, Mongolia is one of the lowest taxation rate among emerging economics. And in this table, we have compared Mongolia to the other countries, and it shows that Mongolia's tax rate is low than others. What is a taxpayer by the Mongolian laws? Mongolian nationals or foreign nationals and stateless persons who are residing in Mongolia subject to pay taxes are taxpayers. by law whether they receive taxable incomes or not in a given fiscal year. The law of Mongolia on personal income tax defines resident taxpayers, a person who owns a residence and is physically present in Mongolia for more than 183 days is called a permanent resident taxpayer. And non-resident taxpayer is a person who doesn't own residence in Mongolia and is not physically present in Mongolia for 183 or more days is a non-resident taxpayer. However, in a law on corporate income tax, resident taxpayer is an individual or legal entity. And however, non-resident taxpayer is a foreign business entity that conducts its business activities in Mongolia under its permanent establishment. Foreign employees of diplomatic representatives, diplomatic consulates, or the United Nations and its various branch or organizations, and their family members will not be considered as a residents of Mongolia. Non-resident taxpayer. The income that a non-resident earns in the territory of Mongolia in a given fiscal year is subject to tax payment. The taxable income of a non-resident taxpayer is determined by the total income that is earned in the territory of Mongolia. The income provider of the non-resident taxpayer is responsible to become a tax withholder. The income provider shall calculate and withhold the taxable income. Here is the corporate income tax law, and Mongolian corporate income taxation is levied at the following rates, using a progressive rate scale that ranges from 10 to 25 and 1% as follows. 10% applies to the first 6 billion MNT of annual taxable income, and 100 million MNT plus 25% applies to any excess of 6 billion MNT of annual taxable income, and 1% applies to the annual taxable income up to the 300 million MNT. Annual taxable income includes income from activities, income from letting, use, and rental of movable and immovable properties, also interest and fines and penalties, and corporations from defaulting party. Also, foreign exchange gain is annual taxable income. Here is the tax rates of corporate income rates. And there is the time frame for tax reporting, which is annual taxable income up to the 6 billion MNT. You should report your tax report semi-annual within 20th of July. And if your annual taxable income is 6 billion MNT and above, you should report your tax report quarterly within 20th of the first of the month of the quarter. Personal income tax. An income earned in or derived from Mongolia in the given tax year by a non-resident taxpayer shall be subject to taxation. The taxpayer's following income shall be subject to taxation, including salary, wage, bonus, incentive, and other similar income from employment, or operational income, property income, income from sale or transfer of property, indirect income, and other incomes. Non-residents are subject to a flat 20% tax rate on any Mongolian sourced income. Double taxation. Mongolia has actively signed double tax agreements with the most of its major economic partners through 1991 to 2004. This network undoubtedly has helped Mongolia to attract foreign investments. Where there is a double taxation agreement in place between Mongolia and the foreign country or jurisdiction, a tax credit may be available depending on the terms of the treaty. Effective from 1st of January 2020, a foreign tax credit is available under the domestic legislation where there is an agreement on exchange of information on tax matters in place between Mongolia and the foreign country. Subject to this condition, if an individual's income is taxed in foreign country, and that income is also taxable in Mongolia, an individual may claim foreign tax credit for the taxes paid in foreign country on the same income on a source-by-source basis. If the foreign tax is less than Mongolian personal income tax liability, then the difference shall be due. Here is the countries that Mongolia have double taxation agreements, and there are Austria, Belarus, Canada, France, Germany, India, Russia, China, and others. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you to Nemo. So now I'd like to invite Brian to present a presentation on the enforcement proceedings of the foreign competition and arbitration award.
Hello everyone. Starting with introduction, I am Boyan Janowat, Associate of GRATA International Mongolia. So in this section, I'm going to introduce about enforcement proceeding in Mongolia, especially with respect to foreign court judgment and arbitral awards, covering recognition in international treaties and laws of Mongolia, and the judicial system of Mongolia, and the practical enforcement proceeding, and required documentations and procedure for the compensation. So moving to the recognition in treaties and laws, in the international framework, Mongolia is the party to the Convention on Recognition and Enforcement of Foreign Arbitral Awards, which is also known as New York Convention, and it has ratified in 1994 with subject to two declarations. Firstly, it has declared that the convention will be applicable only in the territory of another contracting state, meaning that the applicant for enforcement of foreign judgment or arbitral awards must be from the contracting state of the New York Convention. And secondly, the dispute or difference must be considered as commercial under the national law of Mongolia, because every nation has the matters subject to their sovereign rights. So some matters cannot be enforced in Mongolia. Additionally, we have bilateral treaties with several countries such as Hungary, Romania, Vietnam, Canada, or China, and with respect to civil and family cases. And under this bilateral agreement, both the contracting parties agreed to recognize and enforce court judgments in each other's competitive courts, and the restrictions and applications differ depending on the agreement made with which country. So moving to domestic legislation, we can say enforcement of court decisions and arbitral awards are already in place and recognized in the domestic legislation, such as law on arbitration and civil procedure law, and also the law on enforcement of court decisions. So, for example, under the law on enforcement of court decisions, one of the grounds to enforce court decisions is foreign court judgments and arbitral awards. So to sum up here, Mongolia recognizes and enforces foreign court judgments and arbitral awards, both in international and domestic legal framework. Before moving to practical enforcement proceeding, I'd like to give short information on the court system of Mongolia, which is part of the enforcement proceeding. So, as you know, Mongolia is a democratic country, and judicial power is vested to the court, and the court is independent power in the government power. And as you can see, there are three levels of courts, including first instance and appellate and Supreme Court. And for the first instance courts, there are district courts or intersum courts. Som is the smallest unit of municipality in Mongolia. Also, the courts are specialized in civil and criminal and administrative cases, and each having three levels of courts. So now let's move on to the enforcement proceeding. Enforcement proceeding of court judgment and arbitral award has slight difference. For foreign court judgment, for example, if there are bilateral agreement, as I mentioned earlier, the claimant must apply to the first instance court of the foreign country where his or her case was settled, and the court submits the request to the Minister of Justice and Internal Affairs of Mongolia, and after it is received to the competent authority, in addition to the previous stage, claimant, if the claimant is in Mongolia herself or himself, it can apply for writ of execution without having to go into the Ministry of Justice or Internal Affairs. Only the judgment must be final and must be binding on the parties. And the next stage is that the claimant must apply for writ of execution. This writ of execution is the primary ground to initiate the enforcement proceeding. So the claimant must apply to the first instance civil court having jurisdiction over the respondent or respondent's assets. And upon this receipt of the application, the judicial order will be issued within 7 days. And after the judicial order or writ of execution is issued, on the basis of this order, the claimant now have the right to apply for the enforcement of the award to the Judgment Enforcement Office of Capital City. When applying for enforcement of the award, the claimant must submit required documents. Also, you can see reimbursement agreement here. when applying for this enforcement of the award or judgment, the claimant must enter into reimbursement agreement with the enforcement office. And after completion of the application, if there are no grounds for refusal, the application will be considered, and the case will be distributed to the district bailiff, having jurisdiction over also the respondent and or respondent's assets. So in general, this is the general process of the whole enforcement proceeding. Further, what should be noted in enforcement proceeding is that there are some cases where the judgment or awards cannot be enforced in Mongolia. For example, in a arbitral award, the claimant must note that the award must be final, and it should be in relation to the commercial matters, and confirmed by the judicial order or the writ of execution I mentioned earlier. And also the dispute mustn't be related to taxes or fines or penalty, and it should be obtained in a manner that is not contrary to the public policy of Mongolia. So also if the arbitral award is not deals with matters not contemplated by the arbitration agreement, it may become also enforceable. And tribunal or arbitral proceeding, if it wasn't in accordance with the arbitral agreement, and if the competent authority of the foreign country set aside or suspended the arbitral award, it may become unenforceable. So the claimant should note that the award is final, and also the claimant should also consider the arbitration agreement. The arbitration agreement also should be valid and should have been entered into by parties who have full legal capacities. Also, it should for court judgment. It will also apply to arbitral award. There are, this exclusive jurisdiction of Mongolia. For example, disputes relating to ownership, possession, and use of immovable property located in the territory of Mongolia, and disputes regarding reorganization or liquidation of legal entities incorporated under the laws of Mongolia, and validity of registrations made by Mongolian authorities. And in this case, if the foreign judgment or arbitral award includes matters subject to exclusive jurisdiction of Mongolia, it may become also unenforceable, which should be noted by the claimants. Now let's look at what documents are required for enforcement of judgments and awards. So when applying for writ of execution, original or apostilled copy of arbitral award or court decision must be presented. Also, in the case of arbitral award, the arbitral agreement or other agreement that contains arbitration clause also must be presented, and all must be translated into Mongolian language. And for writ of execution, and that's Also, the claimant must submit its official request, and for when applying to the enforcement agency after obtaining the writ of execution, all these documents mentioned here must be submitted to the competent authority. And I mentioned that reimbursement agreement is made prior to when applying for enforcement of the award or judgment to the enforcement agency. In relation to the reimbursement agreement, when applying for enforcement, claimant may have to pay for advance payment of expenditure which will be incurred during the enforcement proceeding by Mongolian authority. For example, expenses related to seal, pledge, or storage, or sales of the payer's property, or expenses related to search or detection of the payer or his concealed properties, and other expenses incurred in the course of enforcement proceeding will be invoiced in advance when the claimant in the enforcement agency are entering into the reimbursement agreement. And also, if some expenses are incurred, additional expenses are incurred during the process, the authority also will claim such expenses from the claimant. However, it will be later reimbursed by the payer when the enforcement proceeding is completed. So for the procedure for compensation, you can see in the case there are sufficient monetary assets, will be used in the first instance to compensate your damage under the judgment or award, and other assets, excluding the ones not in circulation or restricted in circulation, will be used. This is kind of order. The respondent's properties are used for compensating the claimant. And in the event if there are insufficient properties, insufficient cash, the authority or the bailiff will seize or sell the following assets listed here, and withhold the compensation amount from the receipts from selling these assets. And this is not just it also shows the order of the selling of assets. First, the bailiff sells the assets not directly related to production and execution of goods, works, or services of the claimant. Also, I would like to participants to note that these process are focused on only legal entities, and for example, for the order of the assets of respondents, and monetary assets and movable properties, securities, and other assets in this order will be sold, and proceeds will be used for the compensation. And even these sales of assets are not sufficient. Properties and good materials and equipment or securities will be sold to securities directly related to production and execution of works or services of the claimant. So here's the end of my presentation covering enforcement, recognition and enforcement of foreign judgment and arbitral award in Mongolia. So basically, it is in both international and domestic legal framework, it is recognized and it is enforceable in Mongolia. So, and the participant should note that the court judgment or the arbitral award must be binding on the parties, which should be valid according to the foreign country, and it mustn't. The subject matter of the dispute mustn't be subject to exclusive jurisdiction of Mongolia, and the judgment or award is not sufficient by itself. It must the claimant must first obtain a writ of execution on the basis of the valid decision or award, and finally say, and there might be some expenses incurred in the enforcement proceeding, which you will have to pay in advance of the enforcement proceeding. So again, I'm Bonjaros, Associate of GRATA International Mongolia, and if you have questions, you can send your questions to the chat or QA box, and thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Bonjaros, for her presentation. So we all presented our presentations for today's webinars, and as a law firm, we are quite experienced on the corporate commercial laws of Mongolia, and we're assisting many like foreign investors to set up new companies in Mongolia and register the rep offices. And also we assisted some of our clients to register the permanent establishment in Mongolia also. So if you're interested to do business, or your client, your friend is interested to do business in Mongolia, we can assist them. And our marketing team will be send all 3 presentations to all the participants who was attending today's webinars. So you can have contact details and send your questions by email also. So if you have any questions, you can ask now and we will answer before we finish the webinar. And I also would like to inform you that our law firm is providing legal services for 5 years for the local and foreign clients. And we are doing this, doing business in Mongolia webinars semi-annually. And we also prepared doing business in Mongolia, a legal kind of the brochure, the guidance in written form, which is already posted on our website, corporate website, in Mongolian, Russian, and English. So from the written guidance, you also have more information, you know, regarding the legal forms of entities and what's the tax kind of obligations for the business people if they want to start a business in Mongolia, and also intellectual property enforcement proceedings, etc. So we also can send you the links of our legal guidance on doing business, so you can have better information on that also. So if you go to our website, there's a location and you can go to the section of Mongolia, and on the publication section, you will have the doing business legal guidance on there. So thanks for your time and attention. As we haven't received any question on the chat box, it seems like no one from the participants doesn't have a question. So I hope that you find our webinars more useful for your business or for your clients. And generally, if you're interested doing business in Mongolia, I hope that you got some more information in terms of the legal perspective, and some of the part of the presentation was quite legal, used quite legal terms, so might be, not easy to understand, but hope that, you had better information and some knowledge about regarding the legal system of Mongolia by participating in this webinar. And thank you for your time and attention.
Hello, can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
Yes,
sure.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Madina. I am associate professor. Now I'm making my scholar in Michigan State University in USA. I'm just interested if you have like a special conference or meeting as in the law sphere. Could you please give us information to participate in your conference, to join, or maybe to cooperate with you? And if you want, we can share with you, and you will join our conference or other legal roundtable. We can invite you. And so it was like a recommendation or just a question. If you have, if you will have in future conference, could you please invite us or announce about these events?
Madina, right? Your name is?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can send me details about your event, so we can maybe we'll have more communication by email, and of course we'll be open to any collaborations, in the future, if it's like in regards with our services which we provide and doing business in Mongolia. So please send me email and keep in touch. Okay.
Okay. Your email, which we get from GRATA International, email. Is it your email?
Our marketing team will be sent our presentations, and yep. On the last slide of the presentation, you will have our email address and phone number, contact details. So
okay.
Yeah, we will send our presentation to our marketing team, and they will distribute to everyone who is participated and who interested to participate to this webinar.
Thank you.
We have another question, I think, from one of the participants regarding the infrastructure from the dry port of the capital. Actually, I don't understand the question properly. What does it mean? That maybe it's related to the registered capital of the new company? Can you clarify your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, because since you are a landlocked country, I just wonder how, like Kazakhstan, Uzbek, they're all landlocked countries. So my question is, if we want to ship our capital goods to the capital, Ulaanbaatar, how should I proceed? I mean, you have a dry port.
Okay,
you have a dry port, right? And then first, how good are the trains from the dry port? I don't know. That is Ulaanbaatar port, right? To your capital, to the capital of Mongolia. It's approximately, if I'm not mistaken, it's Okay, you can see me here. Hi.
Okay, I got your question. Yeah, Mongolia is
Mm.
like a landlocked country. We don't have any access to the ocean or seaport. So what generally the infrastructure for the transportation is through China, you know the Tianjin port, right? Chinese Tianjin port is the nearest port to Mongolia. So from Tianjin port, all the goods can come to Mongolia by road, by railway, and by airplane.
Can you spell it for me, the port in China, or you can send me an email, so because I cannot hear you clearly about
Tianjin. It's Tianjin. Maybe I can write in chat
in the
box.
chat box. Yeah.
Because this is the nearest port. Like all our goods from the Asian countries come through this port actually. And of course, if you pay more, airplane will be also the transportation. But if you're going to transport like heavy goods,
Yes.
there is road transportation and railway we also have.
So it's through China, correct?
Yes.
Do you know how far it is from there, from the Chinese port to your capital, Ulaanbaatar?
I don't know, but yeah,
Okay.
we can check it. Yeah, through Google, like.
Okay. As long as I can have the name of the port.
Did you get the name through chat box? It's around 1,278 kilometers from Mongolia, from Ulaanbaatar to Tianjin.
Tianjin, okay. Okay, I will find out because I saw a forwarder who's doing this kind of job to inbound all the goods and send it to Ulaanbaatar. I have the name of this company and I will ask for more details, okay?
Okay.
Because of course you are not aware about the taxation on all the things. I will ask the freight forwarder in your country. I think he's doing this, a normal business for him, to import goods from Tianjin, the Chinese port, to Ulaanbaatar. That is all the questions. Okay, later maybe I will send you an email and ask further questions. Okay, so I don't, so the others can also ask questions beside me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So do we have any other questions from other participants? So you can ask now, like. Okay, then, so we will finish our webinar. So thanks for your time and participating and asking questions. Thank you.